Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Today, we're honored to have Bob Gatty. Bob Gatty is the founder of the Not Fake News blog. Gatty has lived and worked in Irwin, Jeanette, and Greensboro in Westmoreland County, PA, and attended Point Park College in Pittsburgh. He has worked for the Tribune Review and UPI, among other news outlets in PA. He is the co-author of Hijacked Nation Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness. Hello, Bob. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, well, we're in sort of near the twilight zone. It's about time for us to get to decide who's going to be the president of the country. But beforehand, you created this blog called Not Fake News, and I think you turned it into a podcast by another name. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, it started out as Not Fake News in 2016. And a couple of years later, I changed it to Lean to the Left. I just wanted people to know really what it was all about. And then I decided that it needed to have a podcast. And so I started the podcast, Lean to the Left, as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. I started out, as you indicated in my in your intro. I started out as a journalist and ended up working in Washington D.C. as a communications guy. I worked for two congressmen, one a Republican and the other a Democrat. Jim Florio was a Democrat from New Jersey, and I was his chief of staff and press secretary. And I worked for him for a couple of years, and then he decided to run for governor. I didn't want to go back to New Jersey, so I started a communications business, and I worked for business clients, trade associations, business magazines for about 30 years. And then I decided to retire and moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because we have family here. And that's when I started my blog on my website.
Now, how's that going? How's your, I imagine right now it's about that time where people are anxious and looking for all that kind of info, huh?
Oh, man, I'm telling you what, I'm going crazy. I've got... I'm doing 2 episodes a week and on my podcast, and both video and audio. And right now it's all politics. And I have a special that I do every month. It's called the Dixie Dems, and I have a guy from Georgia and a guy from North Carolina. And the three of us, since I'm in South Carolina, the three of us are the Dixie Dems, and we get together once a month and we talk politics. And this month, of course, it's all focused on the election. We just did an episode yesterday, which is now streaming, that focuses on the election, on the upcoming election, and both my pals from Georgia and North Carolina believe that Harris has a pretty good shot at taking those 2 battleground states, which, if that would happen, would be really big for her. So it
would almost be game over. Actually, I looked at some of the polls this morning, and actually the polls are, even though I have come to the belief that many of the polls are not correct, I think these guys are so scared because they've undercounted Trump's vote for so long that they now believe that it's sort of skewed against her. And I think they're gonna, I've been for the last several months, I've been saying this election was not going to be a close election. Forget about what the polls are saying. I guess it will be clear whether I'm vindicated or not back in on Tuesday. But anyhow, so talking to these guys, and including the state where you're from, PA. Why is it that Trump really have any kind of notion of possibly being president at all?
Well, that is really hard for me to understand as well. I just don't understand how, especially women, can support this man. I don't, and I don't understand how young people can support this man. I don't understand that. I don't understand how any person of color could support this man. I don't understand how any Hispanic person, any brown person from outside of this country could support this man. He's vindictive, cruel. Uh, it's just he's a criminal. He's been convicted of being a criminal. It's just impossible for me to believe. And in our book Hijacked Nation, we begin with it's all a series of essays from my blog site, Lean to the Left, and it tells a story in kind of a play-by-play sort of the major developments, political developments since the insurrection in 2001, and what's happened since then, and how Trump has continued to deny that the election was lost to Joe Biden, and there's a major section that deals with Project 2025. I have a couple of writers who did an outstanding job of pulling apart Project 2025 and discussing in relatively short essays the key elements of it and the impact that they would have, especially when.
Before, let me interrupt you there a second, Bob. Before we get there, there's a chapter in your book that talks about just President Biden's legacy. You put. I noticed in the book you put chapter 5 after, you put Project 25 ahead of Biden's legacy. Here's the thing. One of the reasons Trump seemed to be competitive in this race is a complete misrepresentation of his legacy, meaning Donald Trump's legacy as far as what type of economy he had, as well as a misrepresentation of the corrective nature of Biden's economy, which pretty much cleaned up his mess and then launched forward. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it just is an incredible thing. Trump misrepresents everything all the way along. It's amazing to me how he can take a negative, something that where he's to blame, where he's got a big problem, and he turns it around as though that never happened, and he flips it around onto the Democrats. The whole thing about preserving our democracy. Democrats are very concerned about the effort that Trump is making and the promise that Trump has made to become an autocrat, to become a dictator. That's what he wants. And yet they claim that it's the Democrats who are trying to infringe on people's freedoms, on people's ability to live in a democratic society. It's just incredible to me, and
don't you think that the media has a lot to do with it? There it is that, like I mentioned before, when we take a look at the economy, I mean, President Obama said it best when he said Donald Trump's first 2 years, 3 years was really the continuation of his economy. And if you look at the charts, that's exactly what you see. And then after that came a crash for which people don't blame him for the pandemic, though he was responsible for the mismanagement of the pandemic, which subsequently Biden cleaned up.
Yeah, for sure. Like, how much Clorox did you consume in order to get rid of COVID? Huh?
Yeah, it is amazing. Now let's go ahead and make a shift here to Project 25, because I think we're probably half through here. You actually said that you had somebody who wrote, or some of your book consists of some good, well-written essays that kind of encapsulate the most important parts of Project 2025. If you were to go ahead and tell me, what should Americans really be concerned the most of? I mean, I have some points that I think we should be concerned of, but I like hearing what other people have seen in that 900-something page report that pretty much is. Yeah, I don't know if you remember, at one time it used to be the contract for America that the GOP used to have. Yeah. Now this almost is more than a contract on America, but a contract to destroy America.
Oh, absolutely it is. And I mean, it's hard to pull it apart. You take a look at the at what they would do with respect to abortion, with respect to contraception. For crying out loud, I can't understand how it is that Republicans would actually want to infringe upon people's ability to protect themselves when they're having an intimate situation. They it's just hard to imagine. But you go into immigration. You go into what do they want to do? They want to deport. They want to spend billions of dollars to deport people back to their countries. People who are really actually needed in this country. For example, I lived in Maryland for a long time, and in Maryland, hard-shell crabs are a big product.
Yeah.
And the area where those crabs come from largely is Trump country. Those people who work in those crab factories are largely immigrants. Local people don't want to be picking crabs apart.
Right. Yeah.
But that whole industry would go down the tubes if Trump was able to get in and actually impose his immigration deportation plan.
Well, nobody ever said that hate was sane, right?
Oh, God,
nobody ever said hate. But here's the thing that what a lot of people don't understand. The immigration issue would just be, and I don't know if you've discussed this on your blog cast before, but immigration would simply be another cash cow for Trump. Let me give a good example. You just made a great point where you said in some parts of Maryland, the people that are cleaning up the crabs and getting the crabs, etc. A lot of it is the immigrant communities, and that applies to the picking of the peaches in Georgia, or the picking of the tomatoes in the Southwest, etc. But here's the kicker: what you think Trump's people would do? They would simply turn the blind eye to anybody who pays a bribe to continue to have those people in. So it is. People look at it as say, well, he's going to deport all these people. I look at it as being unable to create a new market, and that new market is a black market where you bribe to maintain those people who are working. Your thoughts on that?
That's an incredible thing to even postulate. I know I live here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina right now, and it's where we moved when I retired, and we built a small home in a neighborhood. It wasn't a custom home. It was a home that was, built by a big housing manufacturing company. And the people who actually did the work on this house were immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
When I wanted to expand my patio in the backyard, I decided to hire some of these folks. And they did excellent work, and they did it for a very reasonable cost. And they were happy to have the work. Now, if Trump begins deporting all these folks, the housing manufacturing industry is going to suffer greatly. And yet it's those same people who are supporting this man. I don't get it. Do you get it?
Well, no, I don't. But here's the funny thing, because you've just gave an economic lesson right there. Here's the kicker. These are the things that Donald Trump stands for. He stands for increasing tariffs across the board, which means all these people that buy these cheap Chinese trinkets, which is what Walmart is full of,
right?
Their prices will go up. That's number one. Number two, you talk about the construction industry losing people, which means all the costs of homes, all the costs of construction goes up. Who pays the price again? The middle class person. All the fruits and the fruits and vegetables, etc., that gets picked, because we don't have the manpower or the person power to do that. Those prices are going to go up. So everything that he does will actually have a hard impact on his people as it bloats the pocketbooks of those people that, again, inflation, somebody makes the money from inflation, right?
Yep,
And those are the people at the top.
Yep, exactly. Well, it's hard to understand, how all of this could come down. But the bottom line is that if Trump wins this election, we are going to be in some deep doo-doo when it comes to our economy. The whole idea of these tariffs that he wants to impose. Can you imagine what the cost of an automobile would be? Many of the parts of our cars are
made overseas.
Produced overseas.
Yeah.
And I just bought a new Mustang Mach-E electric car.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that car, the parts of it came from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
That car, when I bought it, was $46,000. Imagine what it would be if Trump's tariffs went into place. They wouldn't be able to sell those cars at all.
I think on electric cars, he wants a minimum of 100% tariff. So you'll be talking about almost $100,000 for your car.
Exactly right. And so tell me this, why does Musk support this guy?
Oh, there's a reason why, because he does business with the government. And if Trump is there, he'll be Trump's stooge. Trump would be his stooge. And he'll be able to get all the contracts, et cetera, et cetera. It's right now we are, as Farid Zakaria said today, we are in the process of becoming Putin's Russia, a kleptocracy, which is what, and again, there are a lot of people that don't have a problem with that. But anyway, look, the name of the book is, and I tell you what, folks, it's a good one. They're called Hijacked Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness by Bob Gatty, your person on the screen right now, as well as CJ Waldron. Why don't you give me a closing statement, my friend?
Well, listen, I thank you so much for having me on. And you guys, if you're interested in looking into the some of the facts as to what went down since the insurrection, with respect to Donald Trump and the Republicans, check out Hijacked Nation. You can find it on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble. There's a hardback version. There's a paperback, and there's a Kindle version that's available.
I will make sure and have all that information along with links in the blog, because the better informed we are, the better decisions we're able to make. But look, it's been my pleasure to have you on the show, Bob, and I hope you'll come back. And look, I am 90% sure on Tuesday night, those on the progressive end of the spectrum will have not only a happy night for the presidency, but vote for the House and the Senate. So,
you know what? I hope you're right. I'm beginning to feel that way too. I was a little shaky last week, but today I saw I keep getting these emails from people that are running betting sites, political betting sites, and money is now moving to Harris.
Right.
Last week it was moving to Trump.
Right.
But this week it's moving to Harris.
Right.
And you know what? I think maybe his garbage truck thing.
That was fun. But it was funny on so many different ways. It was funny because he couldn't get into the truck. It was funny because pasting your logo on a garbage truck almost says your logo is garbage. It's amazing that he didn't see the connotation of putting your logo on a garbage truck. But look, it's been my pleasure to have you, Bob Gatty, author of Hijacked Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness.
Thank you so much.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.